In this episode of Lead Guitar Concepts, we're going to focus on playing without a backing track and how this really can help you in a lot of different ways. So we're going to cover all of that, all right? So let's get going. But wait, hit that red button down there in the corner and you'll be subscribed to Outsmart Your Guitar. Hit the notification bell and you will be notified when new lessons are posted, which is usually about once a week. For an expanded version of this lesson, go to patreon.com and Outsmart Your Guitar and subscribe at the Backstage Pass level, and you will get the whole lesson and the expanded written material as well. Okay? And in subscribing and becoming a patron, you will help support my efforts to continue providing you with high quality lessons designed to help you grow and become the guitar player you desire to be to play the music you love. All right, let's get on with the lesson. Soloing without backing tracks. Sounds scary in one respect, but we all do it as guitar players because we'll sit down, pick up the guitar, and what do? We just kind of run up and down the fretboard playing, solo bits without any particular focus or anything else, right? Well, in this lesson, I'm going to direct you into developing what is called situational awareness. In the real world, situational awareness is being present, having the presence of mind to know what's going on around you at all times. When you're driving your car, you need to be utterly aware of where the other cars around you, if there's any pedestrians getting into the street, bicycles, motorcycles, whatever, so that you can respond quickly to avoid accidents or other problems that may arise. This is why we get into accidents, because either we or somebody else is not situationally aware. So in music, situational awareness is knowing what's going on at any given moment musically. So it means you need to know what chord is playing at the moment, you need to know what beat you're on within the measure that you're playing, and where in the progression that measure sits, so that you know where you are at all times. So I've developed some exercises to help you hone your situational awareness. There's some other things that you're going to learn here as well, but the underlying foundation is situational awareness. All right? So let's just get to it, and you'll see exactly what we're talking about as you move through the lesson. Okay, we're going to start easy. We're going to use a 12-bar blues progression. A minor, D, and E minor are your chords. So now the strum pattern I want you to use is even basic as well, because it'll allow you to play straight or with a swing feel depending on how you want to do it. And here's the strum pattern, real basic. Okay, so you're just 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's it. So now pause the video, go through the progression, get the chord changes, they're really easy. Turn on your metronome at 100 beats a minute and play along with it. Now, if that's a little fast, it's okay to slow it down, but get yourself nice and smoothed out using the metronome, and then record into your looper using the metronome to help you keep good time to record a good loop. Then, when you're ready to continue, press play and we'll move forward. All right, the exercise right now is real basic. Just play over the progression the way you would normally play. So, for example, I'm just going to play and show you what I'm talking about. 3, 4. Just like that, normal playing, pure and simple. So pause the video and just do that for a couple of minutes. Get yourself grounded in this progression. Then, when you're ready to continue, press play and we'll keep going. All right, you're comfortable playing over the top of this progression. It's comfortable because you've played this before for sure, right? So now let's begin to develop your situational awareness. Here's how that's done. On the first beat of the first measure, you're playing over an A minor chord, so you're going to play the A root on the first beat of the first measure. And then for those 4 measures, you're going to play just like normal. But then at the beginning of the 5th measure, you're going to play the D on the first beat of the 5th measure, and then just keep playing for 2 measures, whatever you want to play. Then at the beginning of the 7th measure, you're back to playing the A root for 2 measures. Then for the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th measures, you're going to play the E on the 1, the D on the 1, the A on the 1, and the E on the 1. And then you're back to the beginning of the progression, playing the A, and you keep going. So let me walk you through that. I got the metronome going here to help keep time. 3, 4. Beginning of the 5th measure, I'm playing the D right on the 1, and then I keep going. Beginning of the 7th measure, the A. Ninth measure, E. 10th measure, D. 11th measure, A. 12th measure, E. Back to the A on the first beat of the first measure. So let me demonstrate the exact thing without interruption. 3, 4. And that's the idea. And you do this for about 5 minutes, no less. Really dig into being aware of where you are in the count. This is critical. Now, I'll give you a little device when you're playing a chord for more than just a couple of measures. It's a counting device. So the first beat of each measure of that chord's occurrence, you go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now on the second measure of that chord's occurrence, you go 2, 2, 3, 4. The first beat is replaced with replaces the 1 with the number of the measure you're on. 2, 2, 3, 4. Then 3, 2, 3, 4. 4, 2, 3, 4. Now you got a chord change to the D. So you can do that for 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. Back to the A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. And then the E minor, D, A minor, and E minor are just 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So you can do that as well to help you through this process. Okay? So pause the video, take your time here, play this for 5 minutes or more, and have a good time with it. And really focus and always play the root note on the 1. That's the critical part of when the chord begins, hit the root note of that chord on the 1, ever and always, to get you knowing this is when this chord starts, right on the 1. All right? Then, when you're ready to continue, press play and we'll keep going. All right, I got a couple of questions for you after you've done that. You played for about 5 minutes or so, right? Okay, the first question is, did you notice that you were able to start now hearing the progression, even though you weren't actually hearing the progression? The second thing is, did you notice that you had to control your playing more and make things shorter because you only had 4 measures for the A, 2 measures for the D, 2 measures for the A, and 1 measure for the E, D, A, and E, right? Did you notice that you're actually speaking in shorter bits? When we speak, because we don't have unlimited lung capacity, we tend to structure what we say and how we say it in phrases. You'll notice as I'm speaking, I'm actually pausing, not just for effect, but because I need to take a breath, but I'm also stating things in phrases so that each piece of information is almost self-contained. When you put them together, they create a greater statement, but each phrase in and of itself is communicating. So with music, what you're doing through this exercise, having to play the root tone at the beginning of each chord's occurrence, is you're having to shorten what you're playing into smaller bits. 4 measures at the beginning, 2 measures, 2 measures, 1, 1, 1, 1, right? 7 separate phrases. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 7 separate phrases, so to speak, right? Now, can you extend a phrase over a chord change? Of course you can. You kind of want to do that in those last 4 measures of the progression to really have a more complete statement. But you can break it up, as I did, into a singular 4 little mini statements to wrap it up, and then you go back and you get to a 4-measure statement, a 4-measure phrase. All right? So that, I hope, is what you were starting to make, starting to have an awareness of. If you weren't, well, now that I brought it to your attention, I want you to start paying attention to what you're playing. And I encourage you actually to record what you're doing so that you can listen back to it and see if you recognize that you're actually now starting to speak in phrases, short bits that when combined together are actually making a greater statement. This is where we talk about, wow, he's really talking through that guitar. Wow, he's really singing through that guitar. This is what we're saying, that these people who we're saying this about, they are actually impressing us because of the way they're structuring their solos. And that's the third thing I want you to take away here, is the structuring of a solo is something you need to pay attention to. This helps you to improve. All right? So, okay, let's keep going. Let's look at a new progression. We have a D minor for 2 measures, a G minor also for 2 measures, back to the D minor for 2 measures, a B flat for 1, an F for 1, a C for 1.5, and then a C sharp diminished 7. And then you're back to the D minor. Now, if you've never played a diminished 7 chord before, for this one, it's really basic. Play a C7. Now, add your second finger on the 4th fret of the 5th string. Just like that. So, this is a C sharp, and the rest of the C7 now becomes part of a C sharp diminished 7 chord. And I won't get into the theory, just accept that this is the way it is. All right? Now, you play in 8th notes. Now, you want to slightly mute, so put your hand across the bridge saddles and then just kind of slightly lay it down. If it's too much, pull your hand back just a little bit. Where am I? Just pull your hand back a little bit that way. How much do you want? And so, play through this. Pause the video, go through the progression here. It's slated to be at 100 beats a minute. If that's too much for you when you find out that you're going to be soloing over this, right? Then you can slow it down and play it at a tempo that's more manageable. Remember, this is not about speed, it is about quality of execution. So, practice this, put it to a metronome to smooth it out, then with the metronome going, record it into your looper using the metronome to make sure that you stay in time throughout and create a really nice loop. All right? Then, when you're ready to continue, press play and we'll get to the next bit. All right, you've got a really nice loop going and you know what's coming now if you haven't already done it. You're going to just play over the loop and get comfortable with the progression and learn some things that you can do over this progression. So here's something like what maybe you'll come up with. Something like that. And that's the whole idea. Get comfortable with the progression and get it locked into your brain what's really going on. So pause the video, play for 5 or more minutes, and get comfortable. Pay attention to when the chord changes happen, because it's going to matter. All right? Then, when you've done this for a little while, restart the video and we'll keep going. So now that you've played over the progression and gotten a sense of the kinds of things that are possible, it's time to set aside the backing track and now play over the progression without hearing it, but giving yourself the guide, playing the D and the G and the D, and then the B flat right here, F, C, and then C sharp diminished to the C sharp back to the D, right? So this is the idea. So you're gonna play through this, 3, 4. On the beginning of the third measure, the G, you play that. Back to the fifth measure, you're on the D at the beginning. Playing a B flat on the 7th measure. F on the beginning of the 8th. C on the beginning of the 9th. C sharp on the 3rd beat of the 10th. The D on the 1 at the beginning of the progression. Okay? So, here's what you're going for. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's the idea. And always play on the first beat of the measure in which the chord occurs, or in the case of the 10th measure in this progression, the third beat to play the C sharp. Keep yourself grounded, and you will find that this is going to help you learn to really build your situational awareness. Critical stuff here, right? So, pause the video. Practice this for 7 to 10 minutes because it's a little bit more involved progression. Really pay attention and really strive to hit the beginning note of each chord on the 1, or in the case of the C sharp, on the 3. Then, when you're ready to continue, press play and we'll keep going. I want to ask you another question, particularly about this progression you just worked on. You had problems when you moved out of the comfort zone and tried to play in other parts of the fretboard, didn't you? Particularly when you started having to play the root tones of the chords. And you're in an unfamiliar place with regard to where those notes exist. That's number 4 in the things I want you to take away from this. The importance of understanding and knowing where all your root tones are, where all the notes are, root tone or other, it doesn't matter. Maybe you want to start on the 3 of an A chord. Well, you need to know where all your C sharps are. So that's what I'm talking about. Knowing your fretboard contributes to situational awareness. Remember what I said about situational awareness. You need to be aware of everything going on around you. Well, on the fretboard, you need to be aware of where all the notes live so that you can use them and take advantage of them. That's important, okay? So I want you to really pay attention as you do this exercise to know, to learn where the notes live. A lot of people they'll learn the fretboard in 15 minutes kind of thing, and they map out these whole convoluted ideas. And you can begin to get an idea of where the notes live in 15 minutes, but you're not going to know it in 15 minutes. That is just, unless you have an eidetic memory or a photographic memory, not going to happen for us mortals. It took me a while to learn my fretboard, but I know it. And now that I know it, I have more power. Remember, knowledge is power too. Understanding is the beginning of wisdom. So, pay attention to where these notes live for future reference, right? Okay, that's what I wanted to say. All right, there you go. You've got a couple of examples to work with, showing you how to practice without backing tracks and yet still keep aware of the progression you're playing over. You do that, of course, by hitting the root note on the first beat of that given chord's occurrence. So you play that chord for 4 measures. Well, on the first measure of that chord, you hit the root tone of that chord and then play. And then the next chord that occurs, on the first beat of that chord's occurrence, you hit the root tone and then play for however long that chord is being played. In this way, you are mapping and hearing, technically, the chord you're playing over. And your playing will actually respond, hopefully, in being more melodic minded and not speed minded, you will actually hear the chord suggested by what you're playing. So that if you were just playing on your own and somebody was listening to you, they would be getting information that would tell them, this tone, this chord is under that melody that you're playing, right? And then when you move to the next chord, they'll hear that implied by what you're playing. And that is really an amazing ability to develop and to exploit. All right? So make up your own progressions and put them in oddball keys like A flat or B flat or E flat so that you can further one of the more underlying elements of this technique and approach to practice, that you'll start learning the notes of the fretboard better because you're playing the root tones of these chords and you need to know where they are all over the fretboard. All right? So, again, just have fun with it and use this technique to help you really learn how to play over any given progression. All right? So, when you're ready for the next lesson, it's there. And so am I. We'll see you then.